Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ollie. I'm a first-time buyer in Northwest London. I bought my shared ownership flat 4 years ago and have a managing agent or a freeholder called Sovereign Network Homes SNG. And I'm going to be doing a deep dive into property tribunals because guess what? They told me we gave you everything. If you don't like it, go to tribunal. So I went to the tribunal and submitted my application last night. So I want to walk you through what the process looks like and what you need if you are considering a same option. So the process is very simple. You need to go to the website for the HM Courts and Tribunal Services and download a PDF fillable form, so you don't have to print it and write by hand. You can type into it, and it's called Leasehold 3. And it's basically to apply for the determination of liability to pay and or reasonableness of the service charges. And the form itself has 22 pages, and then you have to do specific attachments. The tribunals haven't really moved on with times. There's no payment details, so there's payment options at the end, which I will talk to you about when we come to the end of the form. And you can submit it by either post or by email. And again, at the end of the document, it lists how you can do that. So let's go through the form together so that you know what to expect. Very important is page 2. So page 1 just tells you what the form is about, right? Page 2 is very super duper important because it has 2 questions. Question number 1 is application to limit a landlord recharging costs connected to the tribunal proceedings. So you need to tick yes, I want to apply for section 20C of the Landlord and Tenant Act. What that means is that obviously the managing agent will hire a legal team or use an in-house legal team, and if you tick this, it hopefully will stop your landlord recharging you back all the costs connected to the tribunal through the service charges for the current year. So the service charges questioning in the tribunal are for 2023/24, so those finish on 31st of March of 2024, so they're like 2.5 years old. But we want them, obviously they're going to start investigation, etc., and defend themselves. So we don't want our service charges for 26/27 to have any relevant legal costs. So you need to tick yes, I am a tenant and I want to make a section 20C application. Now the second question on this page, again in a similar sort of principle, is apply to limit payment of legal costs administration charge. So I'm going to read this out. Paragraph 5A of Schedule 11 to the Common Hold and Leasehold Reform Act 2002 to the 2002 Act. A tenant can apply to the tribunal for an order that reduces or removes the tenant's liability to pay an administration charge in respect of litigation costs. And these are normally contractual costs in a lease. I think I didn't find anything related to this in my lease, but I ticked it anyway. So do you want to make an application under paragraph 5A of the Schedule 11 to the 2002 Act? Tick yes. So basically for both questions on page 2, you are ticking yes, I want to apply for section 20C and I want to apply for section paragraph 5A, which basically limits your landlord charging you back for all the legal costs related to the tribunal. So the tribunal costs I'm querying are worth £192,000. So in order for us to actually benefit from any wins, and hopefully we're going to get all the money back, these 2 tick boxes are there to stop the landlord then saying, oh, we spent thousands on lawyers and admin fees, so we're going to charge you back. No. Tick it, and then the courts will prohibit them charging it back. Now, moving down, page 3 is your information. So section 1 is basically your name, your actual address, what is the capacity. So in this case, it's got to be a leaseholder, full address, phone number, and email address. on page 4, if you have a legal representative, you can fill in the details for them. I'm doing this alone. It's not worth paying the lawyers. I've done lots of legwork. I don't think it's necessary to have a lawyer for such a dispute from our perspective. So I left this page completely blank. Now, page 5 is the property information. And here is where you are saying, is the address that you stated as an applicant the same as the one you are questioning? You just tick yes. And if it's not the same because you have moved on in the last 2 years or 3 years or whatever, then you need to provide details of the new address or of the old address that you are disputing. And then question 2.3 on page 5 actually asks you for a brief description of the actual property. I live on an estate with 3 buildings, so I've listed all 3 buildings and then gave details of my building alone, which is 13 floors, 89 flats, and a mixture of shared ownership, full ownership, and rent-only affordable housing. And I also gave details on when I actually moved in and when the building was built. Because some of the charges that we are disputing are related to the fact that the building was only completed in summer 2021. And literally 2 years later, there are costs that shouldn't be occurring on our service charges. Now, page 6 is respondents' information. So this is where I've put details of my landlord, Sovereign Network Homes, or your managing agent, your freeholder, and again, it's name, address, phone number, and email address. The following page, which is page 7, is again asking for the details of the representative. I don't know who the representative is, so I left that blank. However, you have a legal duty when you do submit a tribunal application to kind of serve them. And the way to serve them is I literally copied them into my email with the email address I provided in the application. And in a covering body of the email, I said, the respondent has been served through the same channel by submitting this application, and they are CC'd in, and all the documents I'm submitting are available for them to download as well as for you to download. So again, I left this one blank. Now, page 8 is your landlord's information. And the first question is the landlord the same as the respondent or the applicant? So I could be a landlord applying, right, under the tribunal, but I'm a leaseholder. So I ticked yes, the landlord is the same as the respondent. And then if your landlord is not the same as respondent, because it might have changed, or for whatever reason, then again, you need to fill in the details for whoever the landlord is. And then again, the following page is the details of their representative, so I left it blank. Moving on to section 5, which is on page 10 out of 22 of the tribunal application form. It's asking about resident associations. Now, we talked about it back when all this kicked off about the, £110,000 overspent on our year 2 service charges. But we haven't agreed because the house is such a mixture of tenancies and it takes time and dedication, and you have to set up a company, have a bank account, and have a director, and have a secretary, etc., etc. We haven't actually agreed to it, so we do not have a tenants association at the moment. So I left this page blank. If you do have a tenants association, then you complete it there. Moving on to page 11 is section 6, which is details of the service charges you are disputing. And straight away, the first question is, do any of the issues in this case relate to the provision of Schedule 8? Now, I had to Google what Schedule 8 means, but it's irrelevant to the service charges. It's something to do with Renters Act or something. So I said no, and then it asks you to add the details of what service charge years are you querying. So I've put 2023/24 because obviously it's not the same as the calendar year. It's kind of aligned close to the tax year, but not quite. And I'm only querying one service charge year. Presumably we will be querying the 2024/25. However, we have been served section 20B2 notice that they need more than 18 months to reconcile. So it's a waiting game of whenever they decide to reconcile those accounts, that's when they're going to reconcile. And presumably following this tribunal, they're going to serve this section every single year. So make sure you save up around £1,000 a year for extra service charges just in case, and don't touch them, because they could then turn around and give you 3 years worth because they served you section 20B, and there's no time limit on when they have to comply with that. So you could be hit with liability of £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, £7,000 at the same time. So again, I've put in for this section, section 6, details of service charges, literally just the year which I'm querying in the tribunal. Then moving on to page 12, it's a continuation, and it basically says, tell us about the first year that you mentioned in the application. So I've listed the full date rather than 23-24. I've put it's 1st of April 23 to 31st of March 24. Then it asks you to list the items that you are querying and their value. So I literally listed block gas and electric repairs, £400. Block communal maintenance, £1,300. 13,000, sorry, not 100, £13,000. Communal electricity, £11,000. Alarm, £14,000. Door entry, yada yada yada. It goes on and on and on. So literally every category you list that you are querying and the amount that you are querying. Now you could, I suppose, list the full reconciliation, but I actually did the legwork, and we've gone through all the receipts and literally lifted the things that are either not clear or unreasonable. And then in the box below that, you have a description of the questions you wish the tribunal to decide. So this is very kind of putting your sort of general arguments. And what I have done, the leasehold 3 form, the actual application is very super easy, but you have to do the legwork in the background. So I have an Excel spreadsheet, and I record service charges, estimates, and reconciliations every year since I moved in. I'm really cautious about the finances and reasonableness and fairness. So I already had a spreadsheet of what the estimates were and what the reconciled actuals were. And I've then spent about 3 weeks going through every single receipt they sent us under section 22. Now, the reason why it took me so long is I actually have a full-time day job. So, I spend 8 hours on a computer doing my day job. And very often at the end of the day, you just can't be bothered to do another 2-3 hours of research. However, there was a hard deadline of Monday, 13th of July, because the tribunal fees are increasing. So I just blitzed through it in the last possible week, literally. So today is Saturday, 11th. And all of this week, all the evenings, I was here until 11 o'clock just going through every single receipt. So I added a couple of columns. One was, am I disputing charges under this category, yes or no? What is the amount I'm disputing? Listed the amount. What are the reasons why I'm disputing? And then the last column, what are the legal arguments? And the description box, I can read it out for you, is please see attached the appendix to schedule of disputed service charges for full itemized breakdown, full evidence gaps and legal arguments totaling £119,819.43. So almost £120,000 we are questioning because of the receipts. So again, this is the Excel that I was talking about. And then I go on. Unfortunately, the box is limited with the number of characters, so you have to be really careful about the words. So I've taken out lots of the. So under section 19, service charges are only payable to the extent that the costs are reasonably incurred. The burden of proof rests on the respondent to demonstrate that a genuine third-party financial liability was both created and discharged. And for majority of the service charges, section 22 response, we just got screenshots from their internal systems that didn't even include VAT. So my assumption was that 20% VAT applies, and therefore I didn't query those amounts. I could have, because there's no proof they paid it. And And then in response to the applicant's statutory Section 22 request, the respondent failed to provide primary transactional vouchers or through third-party invoices for the vast majority of the disputed items. So that's, again, you send me internal screenshots, Word. Instead, the respondent supplied internal work screenshots or bulk portfolio invoices. So one of the largest items that I'm disputing is £46,000 per year cleaning, where the cleaners spend 1 hour on site every week. Again, 13 floors, quite small building, to be honest. They don't clean absolutely everything. I recently had a complaint, stage 1, it's now at stage 2, regarding the cleaning, and I was told they only clean visible dirt. So I've actually included that in the tribunal. It's like, you don't charge me £46,000 per year for cleaning visible dirt. That's ridiculous. And for the cleaners in particular, we received a 12 portfolio invoices totaling £500,000. How is that relevant to the 46 you just charged me? It's like, this is where I kept arguing with them about this, and they said go to tribunal, so here we are. The respondent's ledger routinely includes backdated debt rolls and retroactive rebuild consumption charges. So this is where, under the lease, they very clearly stipulate what the service charge year is, which is the 1st April to 31st of March. And by law, unless they serve Section 20B, which I talked about earlier, saying we're going to take longer to reconcile this, they are not allowed to charge you for anything that's older than 18 months. And we found loads going back to 2022 and even 2021. And finally, they're also charged for some charges related to their commercial units on the ground floor. Why are we residents paying for their commercial units? I have no idea, so I'm questioning those as well. So that literally just about fitted into the description box. Now, I submitted this literally on Friday around 3 o'clock. I probably would have done another appendix with proper full description of the relevant clauses, etc., in the lease. However, I have attached the lease so the tribunal can look through it, and if they need supplementary information, I'm happy to provide it. I just needed to log it on time to lock in that current fee of £114 for application. So moving on to page 13 of the application, it asks about the second year, the next one asks about the third year, and we move on to page 15, which is other applications. And it's basically saying, do you know of any other cases involving related issues to this property or the same landlord? So I said no. Section 8 is quite interesting, and I ticked yes and no. So let me tell you what the questions are. Literally 2 questions. It's about the hearing itself. So the application is submitted and it costs £114 per application. Now, I managed to get about 26 people as a joint co-applicants. So one of the appendices is a list of names and flat numbers of the relevant people that have decided to join me in the tribunal And I then have screenshots from my phone for every single person saying, I, so-and-so, authorize Ollie to be a representative for the tribunal related to service charges 23/2024. I live in flat XYZ and I'm a leaseholder or whatever. So I PDF'd that, and that is one of the appendices. Now, the application fee is per application, not per person. So that £114 is going to be split between the 26 of us. So that's very important to know. There is a hearing fee, which at the moment is £200. Now, again, as of 13th of July 2026, the application fee is going up to £200. The hearing fee, which is currently £200, is going to increase to £300. So what I've done in section 8, which is the hearing question, is it possible for your application to be dealt with only on written representation and documents? This is called paper determination. Do you think paper determination is right in your case? And I clicked yes. Now, if the tribunal accepts this, this means we do not have to pay the additional 200, which is increasing to 300 for the hearing fee. It could be just the flat application fee. And then it asks, is your application urgent? I mean, we've been waiting 2.5 years now, so I ticked, not really, you know, it's gonna take however long it's gonna take. Moving on to page 16, are there any days you are not available if there is a hearing? And do you need any support or adjustments if there is a hearing? And then finally, on page 17, the section 9 is called Statement of Truth. And it's basically saying, I believe the facts stated in this form and any continuation pages are true. You sign your name, you date it, and then you can give additional information in section 10 box. But again, because it's a PDF, it's not like a Word where it expands, you're limited and the box is tiny, so I didn't put anything in there. Section page 18 is talking about application fee. So what you need to pay, the application fee is £114. Because I submitted it on Friday, it's locked in at £114,000. I suspect if I submitted the application or downloaded the form on Monday, that fee is going to increase. And it asks how you want to pay the fee. So either you say, I have not included payment because I applied for help with fees, or I'm applying for help with fees or other, and explain why. Or I enclose a check or postal order made payable to HMCTS, which is Her Majesty Court Tribunal Services. And I mean, who does postal orders these days? I mean, it's 2026, Jesus, honestly. The one I ticked is, I want to pay by online banking. Please email me details on how to pay. My email address is, and then you give email address. So that's basically it, really. And then page 19 of 22 is a checklist. I have completed the application fee section, and I'm attaching copy of my lease or a sample lease. And then you have annex, where you can give further information that you have not already covered, but I'm doing it as a separate attachments. And then finally, pages 21 and 22, which are annex 2, just give you a list of regional tribunal offices. So you have one for Northern region, you have one for Midlands region, Eastern region, Southern region, and finally London is separate. And it gives you the address if you wish to submit by post. It gives you the telephone number if you have a query, fax number. Again, who uses fax these days? Come on. And finally, the email address. So what I have done is I submitted my application via email, and I basically send it to the London office. I'm just trying to find the email so I can tell you anything I might miss. And just super quickly looking at, no, that's not it. Okay, so it's very, very simple email, very, very short. Dear case officer, please find attached new application to the first year tribunal. This application concern reasonableness, yada yada yada. So explaining why I'm applying. I'm attaching the following documents: completed and signed leasehold 3 tribunal application form, which we just covered in detail. Appendix 1, which is a list of and authorizations from my co-applicants. Appendix 2, which is the schedule of disputed fees, including the evidence and legal arguments, and that's the Excel breakdown that I told you about. And finally, Appendix 3, copy of my lease agreement with SNG. Application fee, I wish to pay the fee via online banking. Please email me the instructions and reference number. And finally, service on respondent. The respondent Sovereign Network Homes has been concurrently served with the exact application. They're CC'd into this email and can download all the attachments. Now, I have received an automated response, which was really funny because the phone number listed on it was incorrect. And when I Googled it, they mistyped 1 digit. So when I actually phoned the reception, I told them, by the way, your phone number on your automated service is wrong. But anyway, I got automated message saying, thank you for emailing to us. We are experiencing a massive backlog, and we'll get back to you when we get back to you. And that was it. So after that, I actually phoned because I was worried about the fee. The person at reception said, I submitted it on Friday. The form has the correct fee. I should be paying the old fee that is applicable up until the 13th of July 2026, which is £114. And the current backlog apparently is around 3 months. So it's gonna be 3 years to the date probably since we received the actual reconciliation. But here we go. We're not lying down and taking this nonsense from our landlord. They are accountable for how they spend our money, and quite frankly, none of us are happy. So, you know, going from £92,000 estimate to almost £200 actual expenditure in year 2 of the building, where you are not, you know, estimating for things like annual maintenance for specific things, it's ridiculous. And not providing backup, which is your legal duty, is even worse. So I'll keep you posted on how my tribunal goes. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll answer to the best of my knowledge and ability. And yeah, if you do want to take your landlord to the tribunal because of the service charges, I mean, watch my section 22 videos. I don't remember whether I've done 20B. I think I might have. Watch that. And yeah, like, if you have questions, let me know. It's actually easier than you think. You just need time to get your evidence together. And one thing worth mentioning is you have specific time frame to request section 22, right? So the time frame is 6 months from when you receive the reconciliation and the demand for payment. After the 6 months, you can't request the backup. However, I think if you have not asked for a backup or proof under section 22, I think you can still go to tribunal and say, this is what my estimates were, and they're double, and I don't know why they double. You know, nobody says that you have to request section 22, but it does help if you have the backup document saying, why are you charging me for commercial units? Why are you charging me for 2 years prior to when I moved in, or stuff like that? So yeah, good luck. Again, let me know how it goes with you guys. I'll keep you posted. I'll do an update video if and when I have one, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.